Hi, welcome to all of you members who've joined us. It's a special day for the Quint today because the Quint is now 7 years old. We started on March 16th, 2015. It's been 7 years. It's a journey that we at the Quint have made along with you, our supporters, our readers, our members. And so naturally, we'd like to share this birthday with you. My name is Rohit Khanna. I am the managing editor of the Quint, and I have with me today a lot of our senior editorial staff, including Raghav Dayal, our founder and our editor-in-chief, as well as Ritu Kapoor, also our founder. There is also Shelly Walia. She's the executive editor of the Quint, and there's Vaishali Sood, another senior editor who's handling climate change and also our health editorial. There's Tridip Mandal, who's our creative director, heads our video team, and Shadab Moizi is our associate editor from the Hindi Quint team. So this is our senior editorial team that's here. We've been joined by quite a few of our members, Kyle, Sutripta, who's with us regularly, Harsha, Prabal, Sandeep. So welcome to all of you. I'm told that a couple of members will be coming physically to our office in a little while.
Yeah, I hope they're not stuck at that horrible jam on the DND today.
Yeah,
so we're waiting to welcome them and
that's probably,
cut a little cake with them.
That's probably where they are stuck. So let's start right away. We've made a little promo about the Quint and how the truth is what drives us, how the truth is what matters to us. So please take a look at this little promo that we've made, which talks about some of the stories that we've done in the past, which we are quite proud of. Were not easy to do, and brought you the truth.
Top corner of every electoral bond is a hidden number that allows the government to know exactly who is buying an electoral bond.
Looking for the detention center here in Goalpara for the past 2 hours, and finally we have found this site. It says to detention center. Bhaiti, hey, notun detention center to kiman bitorat?
हमारे बच्चे जो ISIS के गुर्गे हैं, आतंकवादी हैं, उनका वध इसी तरह से करेंगे जैसे रामचंद्र जी ने रावण मेघनाथ कुंभकर्ण करा है.
You know why these graphs have this incredible surge at 95? Because 95 is the random mark at which CBSE arbitrarily stops moderation.
This hospital is still under construction, but the operations have already begun 2 months ago. Patients have already been admitted and are living in the basement.
Fundamentalists who are pushing the government into doing these things and taking action against us, etc. But we take it in our stride.
So that was it. How the truth drives us. I want, if Raghav could speak briefly a little bit about the vision that he had in mind when we launched the Quint together all of us 7 years ago, and if there's any sense that he can share of his idea of the way ahead. Raghav?
Yeah, thanks, Rohit. I mean, it's wonderful to be here 7 days out from that first day when we started. And it's, I thank all our members who are here, who join us regularly, who send feedback, our viewers, readers, who consume now a lot of the Quint. I mean, I remember, I'll take you back to an anecdote, and I think it happened in the first 2 or 3 months of the Quint, where some big event had broken and the newsroom was all agog and excited, and we were covering it from several angles, and we were doing lives, and we were doing how to bring in editorial, how to bring in contributors, a big news break, and we were all doing everything to make it a big show for our readers and viewers. And I remember someone said, But look at the audience. We don't have a single viewer on the site right now. What are we doing this song and dance for? And that was a sobering moment that startups have the kind of challenges that they do. We are putting in so much effort, but there was not one person watching us. But then I remember talking to the team that evening. In those days, when we had the evening editorial meeting, saying that, listen, whether someone's watching or not, you still have to put your best foot forward, because that's the only way they'll build up. Because if you withdraw today, then just you are zero today, you'll be zero tomorrow as well. You have to assume there's a large audience there which will get engaged with you. So you have to keep the energy level up, irrespective of whether 0 people are watching, or 100 or 200 or 500,000. And I'm absolutely delighted that today, if we were to try and figure out how many people watch the Quint, Hindi Quint, Fit, all the other offerings that we have. Remember, in digital, one of the key things that we've learned is that it's not a linear engagement with the viewer on one platform. It's a hydra-headed engagement with a potential member of the audience across several platforms. Social, video, straight on the site, Twitter. So it's very difficult to figure out how many unique viewers we actually have, because there's no way of deduplicating. I mean, I could be watching a story on Twitter on the Quint, and then I could be going to the site. Now I'm only one, but I've seen 2 stories. So you don't know how many unique viewers we have, but from every intelligent guesstimate that one can put, it would be somewhere between 50 million to 100 million. If I add the website, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, if I put all of those together, it'll be somewhere. It's a large range because we can't deduplicate, but that's the scale we've reached in about 7 years' time, 50 million to 100 million. And if you put it in Indian numbers, then you find the number even more staggering. 5 crore se 10 crore is the number of unique viewers who must be consuming us some one way or the other, some content piece or the other every month. So we have acquired very good scale in the 7 years that we've been around. Just a couple of other thoughts that I will share, that even though this is new media, this is new age media, this is new tech media, the principles of journalism that it bases itself on are ancient, are when journalism was born, because those principles are immutable. Having said that, the format of digital storytelling is so different from legacy and linear media. It's so different that the editorial necessarily has to get impacted by the means of telling the story. It is a two-way process. I mean, we are much more in touch with our audiences on digital. They tell us, they input much more into our stories. Therefore, we have to respond to them. Therefore, we have to fashion our editorial around it. Therefore, we have to also change some of our editorial because of the constant engagement that we have. And that's the big difference between old media and this new media, that we are very, very much in intense conversation with our audiences across several platforms, several times a day. And though the principles of journalism are immutable, the fact that we have such a heightened conversation with our audience certainly has a flowback impact into the kind of editorial and the kind of storytelling and the format of storytelling that we end up using. So that's been the lesson. As for the future, I mean, I'm a great believer that it's only a matter of time, maybe a couple of years, 3 years on the outside, that almost all information and news, mind what I'm saying, information and news, current affairs and news will be entirely consumed on mobile handheld devices. Almost 70 to 80% already is. And therefore, it's only a matter of time before we traverse the balance 10, 15%. Therefore, the world is our audience. We will not have any handicap compared to any old 100-year-old brands once this transition happens. And we are prepared for it. I believe we've got a fantastic team, which is forever experimenting with new ways of storytelling, with new editorial lines. It's a young team. It's a young, modern Indian sensibility. It's a liberal Indian sensibility on which India's democracy has been founded. We've had a few challenges of late where we've had to fashion ourselves in an increasingly illiberal environment. But these are these are ebbs and flows of history. They keep on happening. We have to stay relevant and moored to what we believe is the right, the principles of India's democracy, the principles of India's society, which is pluralism, which is liberalism, which is accommodation, which is respect for everyone else's thoughts, attitudes, religion, the freedom for everyone to be what they want to be. So those are the founding principles of the Quint, and I'm absolutely certain that 7 years out, we've crossed one threshold. I've now launched several media companies, and I can tell you that it takes about 7 years for a media company to come into its own, for an audience base to become large, for the revenue base to become self-sustaining. We saw that at CNBC TV 18, we saw that at CNN IBN, we saw that at IBN 7. We've seen that at almost every media. We saw that at First Post, we saw that at Forbes India. All the media ventures that we founded, it's between 5 and 7 years that they achieve criticality. And then from 7 years onwards is when they start spreading their footprint in a large manner. We've reached that point today, and I'm absolutely confident that the next 7 will be much more influential in audience terms, in impact terms, in revenue terms, and just the fact of sheer media presence. That's what I look forward to.
Thanks, Raghav. Thanks. So apart from being completely steadfast to our editorial, the other big aspect which Raghav touched upon is innovation, and that is something that our co-founder is very, very. That's top of her mind. So I'd just like her to talk briefly about that and how much that matters in the digital environment and how much it matters to us at the Quint.
I think before I go to the innovation, I just want to bring a little color into the anecdote that Raghav started with. The day that this happened is the day that I went and stressed out big time in his cabin, because we thought put out a big story and done a lot of work, and we had 9 people reading us on the site. I looked out and I counted the people. There were 49 team members in Delhi and 60 members in Bombay who were producing content which was being consumed by 9 people. And for a minute, I was quite sort of shattered. So that's, and to come from that distance to now, I remember also a day we'd done a story on Madhuri Dixit's birthday. And for the first time, we went from 4-digit numbers to 6-digit numbers as a real time. We hit 20,000. And I was literally doing a Madhuri Dixit dance in the newsroom when that happened. And a former colleague who then was working with Star World came in and she met me and she said, "What's wrong? What's the party about?" I said, "We have 20,000 people watching us right now." And she said, 20,000? Remember she came from Star World. So, but it's that 20,000 meant so much to me at that moment. And one of the things that we had done coming to innovation is we had decided to do Madhuri Dixit's birthday in a completely non-text sort of format. We had really fooled around with GIFs and trying to get people to, do their bits with the Madhuri Dixit dance. That was it was a sort of light story, flippant story, but it got us the audiences. And what we realized was that using innovation to get the unlikely audience, drew those audiences to come in and consume the other content on the site. So which was clear to us that innovation was either innovate or die. And proud to say that there was a time that when I was pushing everybody to, try and innovate. And now we have some team members who are driving me and pushing me to think differently, constantly pointing out to me that if I don't innovate, I will die. So, the other thing that's meant a lot to us is our readers' support through it all. You have no idea what a positive, encouraging comment in the Facebook or YouTube or site commenting page means to us. We've been through some very, very rocky phases. A senior journalist was charged with Official Secrets Act. We, faced our persecution, like a lot of independent voiced journalism newsrooms are dealing with in this country. But the fact that we have support makes all the difference. Go ahead, back to you.
Thanks, Ritu. So, members, you are here. before we move forward, is there anyone who would, like to add a comment on some of you who may have observed us on our journey? Anyone would like to talk about what you think about where we've headed, what we've done? Feel free.
I would also, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to say, if anyone is comfortable switching on their video, please do so. We would love to also see you and also see some of your reactions. So if you're comfortable, please do switch on your video. And yeah, if there are any questions, please go ahead.
Yeah, there is a question Sutripta is asking, and she wants to know, he wants to know, are you guys comfortable when revenue is concerned?
So I think that's a question for Raghav to answer, yeah?
Yeah, it's picking up very nicely. It's picking up very, very nicely. As I said, in all my experience of launching several media companies, it is the fifth to the seventh year where you actually come into your stride, because audience size becomes large, and once audience size becomes large, revenues follow. So have we covered all the investments that we've made in this venture to date? Of course not. That could take us another 3 or 4 years by the time we could recoup that. But are we hitting a good stride today? Yes, we are. Revenues are moving to digital, and I, for one, have no complaints on that score.
Thanks, Raghav. I'd like to bring in our executive editor at this point, Shelly Walia. Shelly, if you can take it from here. We want to talk about, we would like this to be about our members.
Sorry, before we go to Shelly, can we introduce
Tushar,
who's just joined us? He's one of our members.
Hi.
So great. Welcome. Congratulations. You're the first ever member to come to the Quint office. We're very excited. We're very, very excited. The power of one.
I actually wanted to come because I work in media, and it feels very difficult when you want to make a serious content and you really want people to watch it. We know how easy it is to make stupid content and get views, but making content which is valuable and continuously making it is a difficult task. I was understanding how difficult it is to get sponsorships, how difficult it is to get people on board. So I really like what Quint does. So I thought I should.
Great to have you here. Future, we look forward to more of you joining us here. With lots of cooking from the Southern Chai.
Yeah, so members, the guys who have not made it to our newsroom, and I understand some of you will be out of town. If you come here to our edit meeting, not just on a birthday, there will always be some paid puja ready for you. So so please try to make it. It's just bound to be fun. You can see this is what I look like. I have been looked after very well for years, right? Okay, so Shelly.
I'm just gonna take over from Rohit now. I wanted to actually, Tushar used the word serious, which I think is so integral to understanding there is so much hard work that's going into everything that we do. I was going through some of our ongoing projects, and there were 3 broad things that I wanted to talk about. One thing that we are covering in a really big way is how gender equality is a myth for a lot of women and girls in this country. We are currently working on a video series which is going to talk about, and which is, of course, our members will get the exclusive video, which is going out tomorrow, about girls who have been forced to drop out of school during the pandemic. And this is not something that a lot of media houses are talking about or paying attention to, but there is a risk of about 10 million girls in this country of dropping out of school. The second thing that we are really focusing on, and this is going to expand as we go on from here. In 2022, we did have a serious editorial call about this, that climate change is only going to expand going from here. So that is something that has become one of our center focus. And we are going to play a short clip of a video that we are currently working on, of a docu actually, which is from Hasdeo in Chhattisgarh. It is mostly the fight of the Gond tribal community against, the mining, which is the rampant mining, which is going on in the state right now. They are trying to protect their land. They've had a bitter experience with mining, which started about 10, 15 years ago. It is all linked to climate change because, of course, the pollution, the respiratory ailments that the locals are suffering from, they have been out on the streets protesting and so on. And finally, which we will talk about going further, the third thing that we are really, really focusing on, which I feel very proud of, even talking about it, is the criminal justice system, which is actually in a lot of ways unfair, and so it becomes the criminal injustice system. So these are the three large areas where we are focusing on right now. We are doing these special projects. I'll talk about some of the special investigative stories that we have done in each of these categories. But before that, I would like to show a short clip from Chhattisgarh, our reporter Vishnukant Tiwari, who traveled to 4 different villages around the mining area in Hasdeo. And he is bringing us these stories, which we will be able to see in the coming months.
The green mountains and forests of Chhattisgarh's Hasdeo area have been turning black ever since the coal mining began in 2012. The tribals were unaware of the fact that their idea of life could be taken away once the government got to know that a huge pile of coal is lying around in Chhattisgarh's Hasdeo area. We'll be going to villages, we'll be talking to people to figure out how much has coal mining impacted their lives and the tribalness of this place.
हम लोगों की जिंदगी अनाथ हो चुका है सर।
तो लगता है कि हम जहाँ पर बसे हैं उसके नीचे कोयला ना रहता तो मतलब हम बिंदास अपना जीवन यापन करते।
कितने पास में है माइंस?
माइंस घर से नज़दीक पे लगभग 100 मीटर की दूरी पर।
100 मीटर की दूरी पर है।
माइंस जो है आदिवासियों के लिए विनाशकारी है।
जो ब्लास्टिंग होता है कितनों समय होता है, उसमें भय होता है घर में दरार फटने लग गया है, कंपन होता है। अभी लोग चालू नहीं किए हैं, चालू करेंगे तो कंपन उत्पन्न होता है।
देखिए ब्लास्टिंग होता है, घर ऊपर से पत्थर गिर रहा है, किसी को पड़ जाएगा तो जान भी जा सकती है। और घर का जो मिट्टी का घर है वो फट रहा है, पानी बरसात आएगा तो वो भी तो गिरने लगेगा।
हमको तो पहली बार खदान खुला तो ये पता चला कि हमारे क्षेत्र में पैसा ही पैसा होगा। मतलब बहुत कुछ चीज़ बताए थे, शिक्षा के बारे में, शिक्षा देंगे ऐसे करके बताए थे, और लाइट बिजली पानी सारी चीज़ का सुविधा देंगे ऐसे बताए थे। लेकिन आज तक हमको जो प्रभावित क्षेत्र के लोगों को ऐसा कुछ भी चीज़ मुहैया नहीं कराए।
I would also, we are working on this project out of Chhattisgarh, but of course our attention is towards cities like Mumbai, Chennai, and the real impact of climate change in states like Uttarakhand. I would actually like our editor here, Vaishali, to talk a bit more about it. She's currently working on a bunch of these projects. If you can just tell our members about that.
Right. Thank you so much, Shelly, and thank you all for joining us today. It's thanks to your support that we're able to do some of the projects that we have been able to in the last few years. So thank you so much. Just to take off from what Shelly was talking about, I'm the health editor, and I've recently sort of also taken charge of climate change coverage. And it's ironic that we're just emerging from the biggest health tragedy, and we are headed towards the biggest climate tragedy this world has ever seen. The latest IPCC report has been dubbed the Atlas of Human Suffering. There's a load of data that's headed our way, but to make sense of all of this data, all this information, all this doomsday scenarios, how do you make sense of all of this? And also try and understand, how does it affect us? How does it affect people who are actually living in climate hotspots? We are sending our reporters out across the country. We're telling you stories from the hotspots, but we're also telling you stories from the big cities that are facing the brunt of climate change, not just decades away, but maybe less than a decade away. So that's what we're planning to do. You'll get 5 very strong documentaries from Chennai, from Jharkhand, from the mountains, from Mumbai, telling you the climate change story. We are also trying to sort of make sense of a lot of the words and the big words that you hear around climate change, right? The zero net carbon, carbon colonialism, you hear about climate finance. What does all of this mean? So we've got our climate change reporter, Sadhika, breaking it all down for you in a very easy to consume format called the Climate Change Dictionary. we've also focused in the month of March on climate change and gender. So we've got Dia Mirza, who's become like an ambassador for us, to front our Me the Change, Women for the Planet. Sorry, am I disturbing?
No.
Yeah, okay. Women for the Planet campaign, where we're telling stories of women who are sort of leading and taking charge of the climate change that's unfolding in their areas. And, we're telling their stories, and we're also telling the stories of how women are facing the brunt of violence as a result of climate change. So, all these intersectionalities, we're going to be bringing you all these stories, and we need your continued support to tell you those stories. So before we go and we open the floor to you guys, we just want to play a little promo that Dia shot for us. And so here we go.
Climate crisis is here. It's now, and it's disrupting millions of lives. And like most crises, it's impacting some of us more than the rest. Women, who are more vulnerable, especially in developing societies like ours, are struggling with a whole different set of challenges with climate change. The gendered impact is not just on livelihood, on job losses, on the economy. It also leads to more domestic violence, human trafficking, early marriage, and further marginalization of women and their hard-fought freedoms. While women have it worse, they're also fighting against it the hardest. They are adapting, finding unique ways of survival, and engineering a revolutionary change at the grassroots. Women in local communities are emerging as the real eco-heroes, despite all odds. At the Quint, we are bringing you stories of these women from the ground up on Me the Change, Women for the Planet.
Right, there you go. You heard Dia giving you a glimpse of what we've been doing. We are opening the floor for questions. If you guys have any questions for us, please go ahead.
We have a lovely comment from Kyle here who says, it's wonderful that the Quint is reaching out to so many folks over YouTube and its social media channels. Thank you so much. More of a focus on the climate emergency is due in 2022. Trust me, Kyle, we literally all of us sat down and we talked about it, and the campaign that we are running, which is Living with Climate Change, is just in the same way, because we do realize how important it is to address issues. Do check out our climate change dictionary. It's one of my most personal favorite things that we are doing right now, which is, as Vaishali was explaining, to break down some of these words and making them accessible and easy to understand. So yeah, thank you for that comment. Is there anyone else who would like to ask us anything at this point, or offer a comment? We would love that.
If there's any other editorial subject that you think we should be pursuing or taking up, Harsha, Sandeep, Prabal, any suggestions? You can of course mention it on the chat. Otherwise, just turn on your camera and tell us what you think, because you've taken the trouble to make it for this. We'd love to hear what you have to say. What about you, Tushar?
My, I think, understanding for Quint is that, to be a little stupid from my side, the content is wonderful. The mass, I feel, is not relating with the way it is being presented. The mass need a far more simplification than this. And I have worked with GQ Empire, and my understanding of consumer is very much that the consumer, as soon as everyone is looking for some sort of escape, and whenever they see our content, they feel real life is more shittier than now. So what is happening, I think, with our consumers and the mass at all, they're already very dissatisfied in their life. And the Quint has a lot of news which is even telling that life is even going to be more sadder. So I think even though people want to be associated with the initiatives, they want to be part of everything, they are so depressed themselves that they don't want to more negativity around them. That's why we see my education in psychology, And people don't come to psychotherapists, they come to babas, they go to anywhere because they have an answer for it. Reality is not something they are seeking.
I think this is a very valuable feedback. I think, but this is something that we do keep trying to remind ourselves. For instance, you're absolutely right. For instance, on the climate change dictionary, which we are internally within the Quint so excited about, we're not finding as many viewers for it. So in fact, that's one of the discussions that we've had basis looking at the data that's consuming, say, something like the urban change dictionary. Maybe we need to not jump into straight away at climate colonialism, which is a very alienating term. It's maybe the kind of term that environmentalists are talking about. So we're now changing that to the next climate change dictionary that you will see will be about maybe something as obvious or as relatable as, say, pollution and health, or coronavirus and climate change. So to be able to join the dots first rather than, so this is actually a discussion we've already had on that. Also on solutions, actually, you're right. We keep having these discussions that we must focus on solutions, and we do go through phases of, looking at content, which is far more solutions oriented. In fact, one of the things that we are planning to do with climate change, with our coverage of climate change, is actually look at solution development goals, sustainable development goals, so that we're able to look at where the solutions are as well. So it's not only going to be, hopefully, not the doom and gloom, but what happens is that, negativity in the news cycle comes in such swathes and waves and abundance that for us to look away from that also would not be fair.
Definitely.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right. So this is something that we're looking, whether audiences are consuming what we're doing, whether we need to distill it further, whether we need to worry a little more about what people are thinking and worrying about, rather than, decide in air-conditioned newsrooms or in the field on what they must. It's not a one-way communication as far as we're concerned. So your feedback is very well taken, and also to reassure you that that's something that we worry about, and this is something that we are constantly looking at.
Right, just to add to what Tushar, what you just expressed, one of the small but very significant portions of this IPCC report is on climate anxiety and its impact on the young. And it's the young that they're addressing, again, are not just at the frontiers of climate crisis, they're also addressing young people like us, I mean, I'm not young anymore, but a lot of other young people who are genuinely seeing their futures at risk. So, we do want to talk to them, and we also want to talk to them about solutions and not just talk to them about, this doomsday scenario of what's unfolding. So feedback well taken, thanks.
I think along with solutions, there are a lot of people doing some very innovative stuff. I think we should take the trouble to figure out where these innovators are, whether it's in climate change or in other areas also. The Hope series that we've been doing for over a year has done very well, simply because it is offering hope as part of the storytelling. So I think, Tushar, you've got it right. And another mental note, to keep our storytelling simpler, not to dumb it down, but to distill it and to keep our storytelling a little simpler so that it becomes a little more accessible. Thanks, yeah.
If I can just add more.
I actually want to, can I take?
I really don't know how contributing I'm saying, because I'm speaking from entertainment domain. I have just.
No, your points are very well taken.
My experience is in entertainment, and we recently, I hate people who abuse. I literally hate people who abuse a lot. But just yesterday we made a hire, and the reason I just asked her why we should hire you, do you add memes to your content? That was, she showed me her complete show reel, that they add stupid memes to them, they use slangs, and I was asking myself, is this even worth it? Should we do this? Because this will take away the point of everything. But then I realized, as soon as we started adding stupidity to our content, we removed the seriousness. We didn't remove the topic. One of the things we were talking about were the Matt Reeves movies. Matt Reeves made a stupid Batman movie. This Batman movie was pathetic. But we can't say this was bad, because our audience was very much a fandom of Matt Reeves. So instead of we saying it was bad, we put a meme. and we simply set across our point without even keeping our audience in that. We realized that people are like very fast-paced seeking content, and more we can just deliver it in a very fast manner, in a very, because the point is attention economy. What we are facing, I think, for whom we are making the content, they are attention deficit, and they are not going to stick around for a while if the content even takes a jump like this video I was watching. I think this video had like from a very go ahead. The point is, but this kind of video, as I saw it, I understood the concept, but I was just imagining that a person of my age, a person won't even reach the end of the video.
Yeah. No, we were aware of the fact that it's too long and it needed visual inserts, which I think the final version was to have the visual inserts.
People who are dancing and telling content.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, no, so I think we were going to put more images inside.
This one we decided not to, but yeah, point well taken.
Yeah. So back to Shelly, guys.
I mean, I wanted to butt in a little earlier, but I'm going to butt in now and just say that the conversation that Ritu and Tushar were having about, takers for content. Rohit mentioned the Hope series that we have done, which I think is just beautiful, like, just putting some faces to stories of people who are really trying to make it in this difficult world. We have a lot of takers for that. But, Tushar, and I'm like telling you and also the rest of our members that sometimes it really surprises us, even the kind of depressing content that we do find their takers. And I want to mention the amazing success that we had with a series that we did on the COVID orphans. So you will be surprised, how many, like millions of people watched the videos that we did from all around. And what I think worked was putting faces to these numbers. Like there are thousands of COVID orphans, there are thousands of children who have lost both their parents. You see this in news, but when you actually focus on one child and when you tell their story and when you tell how their lives have changed, because they have lost both their parents, they have been left in the care of their grandparents, or they've been moved to an orphanage or so on and so forth. We did find a lot of takers for that. And I think that was really moving for me personally. And this is, again, something that we try and focus and do a lot editorially, where we try and keep our focus on the humans behind these numbers. And I wanted to also use that as an excuse to lead into the, the criminal injustice system that I was talking about earlier, that we have done 2 series, again, with fair amount of success, where we have looked at the people who were acquitted after years of incarceration. So that was one aspect, which was the series which we did which was called Baizzat Bari. It was done by one of our very, very talented reporters, Zija. She spoke with men who had been incarcerated for years and then let go. And the trauma never left them. So, just watching those faces, again, huge success there. The second series that really did well, and again, I personally take a lot of pride in that, was the custodial deaths. That is so common. In UP, there have been, the numbers say that there are 7 deaths every day in custody. So again, talking about how the criminal injustice system is, how the injustice is, how the judiciary can be so unfair sometimes. I will have to excuse myself, Rohit. You'll have to take over.
Because someone is very really ringing your bell. Yeah, so so taking that thought forward, it's been 20 years since the Gujarat riots, and the Gujarat riots saw a lot of lives lost. It was a terrible time for those who remember that. And we thought 20 years down the line, for a new generation of young, intelligent audiences, perhaps we should revisit that. And that project is underway. we are getting pretty good responses from people to help us fund that project. And my colleague Himanshi and Athar, they've done this. But so just to give you a glimpse of what material they have, if we can just play this clip.
1,044 deaths, over 2,500 injured, and 223 people missing till date. This is the official toll of the 2002 Gujarat riots. But behind these numbers and statistics are stories of people who watched the horror unfold.
पहचान में नहीं आती थी लाशें किसी की। मैं जहाँ जॉब करता हूँ वहाँ पे भी मुसलमान हैं, फिर भी उनसे दूर ही रहता हूँ मैं।
रेप किए गए उनके बच्चियों के साथ, फिर उनको काटा गया, बहुत खराब।
In Gujarat 2002, Memories of a Riot, my colleague Athar and I examined the long-term aftermath of communal violence through first-hand accounts of the survivors of the riots. Exactly 20 years after the tragedy.
साला मैं तो हीरो बन गया।
बहुत बुरा लगता है कि मेरे पास भी मेरे पापा के साथ मेरा एक फोटो होता तो मैं उसको देखती कि नहीं, मेरे पापा मुझे ऐसे खिलाते थे।
जहाँ जानवर भी ना रह सके, ऐसी जगह पे हम लोग रहे, मेरे बच्चे रहे।
But here's the thing. To tell these stories and to tell them well, we need money for research, travel, shooting and post-production. Rupees 4,32,000 to be precise. And your financial contributions can help us raise this amount. The details on how to contribute are given down in the description of this video. Remember, we are because you are. Your support matters.
Prabal and Harish, right? If you have something to add, not just to this, but what do you see us doing moving forward? Love to hear from you.
This is Prabal.
Yeah, Prabal, would you want to switch on your camera, Prabal?
Yeah, that's there'll be a reflection from the mirror. That's not switching on the camera. If you wanted, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, we'd love. Yeah, this is perfectly fine. Go ahead. Yeah, great to see you.
Yeah, so I've been following the Quint. I'm an retired Air Force veteran. And what I appreciate about the Quint, that it's unbiased reporting in the face of many constraints in the context of today's India. So that I must admire your moral courage to bring out stories which are unpalatable, maybe to the current regime or maybe to other people. But I am with you on that, and I will also continue to support, continue to follow you wherever you go. You are actually covering a lot of stuff. And maybe I can't see everything, but whatever I do at the time, I do have a look at it. It's always great to see what effort has been put in to bring these stories to us. Thank you. Carry on the good work.
There's a message from Banani saying safety and security issues that women face every day, even when they commute daily to work, exposing such crimes and working towards the safety of women. This could be something we can work on. Actually, we must be one of the few newsrooms in the world which has a gender editor. Gender is something that we actually cover very, very extensively. Maitri from our team is constantly focusing on that, and a lot of what you have referred to here, we have been focusing on. I'm also happy to say that relative to the rest of the industry, we have among the highest, if not the highest, women audiences on the Quint. 34% of our audiences when we last checked was women, and it's as low as between 5 to 17% on most other news sites. So, I mean, when it comes to gender, it's never enough, and we're going to constantly be doing much more. I think in the past, maybe the last 6 months, maybe we haven't really done an extensive documentary related to gender, but maybe it's time to resurface some of the content that we've done earlier. You must try and watch our documentary on what lesbians in rural India need, deal with. For instance, we've done a very highly watched and awarded documentary on rape. But your point is very well taken, and I'm sure Shelly would want to add more here on, how important gender is for us in this
Yeah,
newsroom.
absolutely. I mean, we were talking about, how the myths about women equality, I think that has been our focus from the very beginning. From the crimes against women to, stories of empowerment, we try and keep that balance. I would also, we will be talking a bit about the project that we are working on right now, which is called Ladki Hoon, Padhna Chahti Hoon, which is bringing you stories from all across India of young girls who have been forced to drop out of school. It's a series we are starting tomorrow, and we will be sending our members the exclusive preview today. I also want to thank Mr. Malikar for all the kind words that he said for us. It is so just touching to hear that some of our work is getting recognized. Yes, of course, you can't be watching everything, but whatever you see and the fact that you appreciate it just makes us feel very, very good. Thank you so much. Was there another comment from Harsha? Did you want to say something?
Yeah, so I just wanted to suggest that is it possible to focus more on fake news and also get the videos in languages other than English, because fake news is a major problem. I see that there is webcoup, but I think it's not regular enough, and maybe you can partner with Alt News or somebody for the content and generate the videos.
Ritu, would you like to
we really want to be able to diversify, because your point is very well taken. It's not enough to only look at the kind of fake news that's doing the rounds in Delhi and Bombay on WhatsApp. It's because the nature of hyper-local, regional language fake news that's doing a lot of damage. We really want to be able to focus on that. But I think that comes down to being able to find the funds to diversify, because doing regional language fake news means we need to build strength and teams who are strong in languages across the country. We have tried in the past to partner with somebody who we thought was doing this comprehensively, but we realized that they were also limited by a funding resource. So we want, webcoup has, the aspirations. Kritika is not here, but Kritika, who leads the webcoup team, she's really got a lot of plan and strategy on how to really fight the disinformation, misinformation, malinformation menace, which is unfortunately very well orchestrated, very well funded by IT cells. It's a tough thing to fight against. And again, I'll bring Tushar's point. One of the things that we're trying to do to the way we put out verified news. See, very often fake news it appeals to emotion. It's very simple. It's very provocatively put together, and therefore it's very, very clickbaity. Whereas verified news is complex. It's layered. It's somebody needs to read to it's data driven. So one of the things that we're actually trying to focus on as far as fake news is how to put it in formats which are very easily consumed, which will maybe use the same keywords or clickbaits that fake news is doing, and for it to proliferate on the same platforms like WhatsApp where the fake news is spreading. But regional fake news is a huge challenge, because you need people who are not just good with the language, but who also understand the context regionally and hyper locally. Yeah. So it's a huge project that really needs to be done. We have gone knocking on some doors looking to see if they are willing to support and fund it. But yes, it's something that we really must look at. But one small attempt that the team has started is our media literacy campaign, which we call Verify Kiya Kya. And there we've tried to make it fun, accessible, make it interesting. We just started it. So we hope that, if everyone can be a fact checker, that will be the really substantive way to fight fake news.
This is Shutripta.
Yeah, sure. And I think, sorry. Harish, you had something more?
No, Sutripta was making.
Sutripta. Okay, go ahead, Sutripta, please.
Yeah, I had raised my hand a long time back.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I've got some thoughts, and I wanted to know whether you have any thoughts of following up along those lines or not. We are discussing essentially of what is happening with the actions of the executive and how it affects the people. Okay, but along with that, I think we need to know, we are seeing that what we think are immutable laws are being reinterpreted differently over time. Laws are supposed to follow society, so that is happening whether we like it or not in India right now. Whether you're going to do any thought-provoking articles on that, number one, and especially follow how laws have progressed in other societies, especially Italy, Mussolini's Italy, Hitler's Germany, and right now it's in Hungary and Poland. Whether you have any thoughts at all on that line or not, number one. Number two is that what are our thoughts on the institutions which are meant to protect us in the short term and the long term? The Election Commission is the one which comes immediately to mind. And third thing is, what is happening now, I see and I feel, is that funding for any dissenting voice has been cut off. All legitimate forms of funding for dissenting voices has been cut off. Can you do a deep dive story into that? Or these are not within your range of interest right now?
No, they are. Sutripta, they are all certainly within our range of interest. We are constantly collaborating with contributors. We have a pretty strong legal reporting team here. There's our legal reporter Vakasha Sachdev. There's Bekhala. So what we do is we believe that as and when an issue comes up which allows us to talk about these issues, then we feel that travels better. So for example, when if you want to talk about how the Election Commission is perhaps not doing as much as it should, for example, when there are blatant, during the UP election, there were these speeches which were given in adjoining districts just when voting was going on in another phase in an adjoining district, and how the Election Commission seemed to be doing very little about that. I think so. We used that moment to also add an editorial article on whether the Election Commission is missing out on doing these important jobs. Similarly, we've roped in a lot of former bureaucrats, some of them who've had the courage of conviction to write for us, to talk about how maybe the CIC, how the CVC, how some of these entities are also the women's commission, how these are also stuttering in today's day and time. So we are doing that, and very much within our frame of reference.
Just wondering if Raghav could come in on this question as well. I also want to say that we have Shadab here, who is representing Hindi Quint, in case there are any questions for Hindi Quint as well. But if Raghav would like to come in here on Sutripta's question.
Yeah, I mean, I think we do a lot of these stories which are show the kind of difficulty that contrary opinion in India today is having to deal with. No, we don't duck that subject at all. We do it, but we also have an obligation to our audience to give them a varied fare. So we've done stories on how FCRA has been completely dried up for lots of NGOs. We've done stories on how advertising is used as a weapon in getting media to fall in line. We've done stories on how raids happen on media organizations to get them to fall in line. We have first-hand experience of that. So no, we've done quite a bit of that stuff. But the demands of our media are such that we certainly have to do a lot more varied stuff than become a campaign vehicle of one issue, however important it may be. And I think it would be good to get Shadab in for his views on some of these things that we've spoken about, because Hindi Quint does tend to have a more newsy orientation than the English one. So therefore, picks up more newsy subjects, or on a proportion has more news relative to feature.
बिल्कुल, हम लोगों की कोशिश जो है इतने दिनों में क्विंट हिंदी में यही रही है कि हम लोग जो न्यूज़ आप देख रहे हैं, तमाम जगह देखते आ रहे हैं, और जो मेन स्ट्रीम मीडिया जिनको कहते हैं, वो आपको जो न्यूज़ दिखा रहा है, वो सिर्फ एक, आप समझ सकते हैं, एक नोटिस बोर्ड जैसी चीजें हम देख रहे होते हैं। लेकिन हमारी पूरी कोशिश ये है, क्विंट हिंदी की खास करके अभी कोशिश जो है वो ये है कि हम आपको उस न्यूज़ के बिहाइंड द सीन जिसको कहते हैं वो दिखाएं। सिर्फ न्यूज़ आपको बता देना नहीं है, आप उस न्यूज़ का पर्सपेक्टिव क्या होगा, उसके आपके साथ उसकी जिंदगी कैसे जुड़ी हुई है, उस न्यूज़ को, उस जो जार्गन है न्यूज़ के, उसको सिंप्लीफाई करके आपको बताना, वो हमारी कोशिश है। खास करके हम जो कोशिश कर रहे हैं वो ये है कि वीडियो ओरिएंटेड, क्योंकि ये आप देखते होंगे ज्यादा से ज्यादा लोग जो है वीडियो कंज्यूम कर रहे हैं, और खास करके अब जो है वो टियर 2 टियर 3 सिटीज में आप देखते होंगे कि हमेशा ज्यादातर लोगों के हाथ में मोबाइल है, और जो डिजिटल लिटरेसी है वो बढ़ रही है। उसको देखते हुए हम ये टारगेट कर रहे हैं कि अपनी ऑडियंस तक हर तरह से उनको हम उस चीजों से, जो न्यूज है उससे खास करके अवेयर करा सके। रही बात जो आपको फेक न्यूज जैसी चीजें हैं, उससे भी हम, उसके लिए भी हमारी टीम जो काम कर रही है वो इस तरह से कि हम बहुत सिंप्लीफाई करके उनको बताते हैं, और बहुत इजी लैंग्वेज होता है जो आपको समझ में आ सके। जिस तरह की लैंग्वेज आप सोशल मीडिया पे देखते हैं, उसी सेम तरह से हम काउंटर कर रहे हैं, बट एक सिंप्लीफाई वे में कर रहे हैं। तो हमारा जो टारगेट है वो है टियर 2 टियर 3 सिटीज को हम कैटर कर सके, जो यंग ऑडियंस है खास करके। और आपने बहुत जो न्यूज चैनल्स देखते आए हैं और जो बाकी मीडिया देख रहे हैं आप, वहां पर आप देखते होंगे कि न्यूज को प्रेजेंट करने के लिए बहुत मतलब एक ताम झाम टाइप चीजें। तो हमारी कोशिश ये हुई कि हम उसको जितना सिंप्लीफाई करें। हमने वो जो कहते हैं ना, जो कैमरा का मेकअप वाला सिस्टम था, हमने उसको तोड़कर एक लोगों के बीच में, क्योंकि आपकी जिंदगी मेकअप से बाहर है, आपकी जिंदगी आम लोग जो सड़क पर चल रहे हैं, चाहे वो थिएटर में हो, या वो किसी मॉल में बैठे हो, या कहीं भी हो, रास्ते में चल रहे हो, चाहे वो कैब चला रहे हो, चाहे वो अपनी मर्सिडीज में हो, उन तक जो है उनके लैंग्वेज में समझा सके। आप हमारे साथ, हम लोग क्विंट हिंदी में एक ट्राई हमने ये किया कि जैसे बिजनेस आप देखते हैं, बिजनेस में बहुत सारे हार्ड वर्ड्स ऐसे होते हैं, जार्गन्स होते हैं जो लोग आम लोग नहीं समझ पाते हैं। बजट का जैसे हमने कवर करते हैं कि बहुत जो भारी भरकम शब्द हैं, या बहुत सारी चीजें ऐसी जो आपको समझ में नहीं आता है, हम लोगों ने उसको सिंप्लीफाई किया। तो वो एक तरीका हमने ढूंढा है, और हमारी जो टीम है वो यंग, जितने यंग लोग जुड़े हैं हमारे साथ, तो हम और अलग अलग जगह से, अलग अलग शहर से हैं। तो ये एक अच्छी बात है कि हमें अलग अलग फ्लेवर है, अलग अलग लोगों को समझ है कि वो क्या चाहते हैं, हम उसी तरह की चीजें उनको दे रहे हैं। और बहुत मतलब जो हमारा जो टारगेट है कि हम आपको एनालिसिस दे सके, सिर्फ न्यूज नहीं, कि नोटिस बोर्ड नहीं, आपको एक पर्सपेक्टिव बता सके कि हाँ, सही और गलत का फैसला आपको करना है, बट हम उन चीजों के पीछे की चीजें बताते हैं। जैसे इस पूरे इलेक्शन के दौरान आपने जो 5 स्टेट का इलेक्शन हुआ अभी, तो उसमें हम लोगों ने, हमारी कोशिश ये थी कि आपको तो इन्फॉर्मेशन आप न्यूज चैनल्स पे या बाकी जगह इलेक्शन कमीशन की तरफ से, और आप न्यूज का जो है वोटिंग, किसको कितने वोट्स मिले और कौन जीता कौन हारा, सबको समझ में आता। लेकिन इस जीत हार के पीछे की पूरी कहानी कैसे है, आप भले ही कोई पार्टी जीत गई हो, भले ही कोई पार्टी हार गई हो, लेकिन वहां पे जो उसका जो एनालिसिस है ना, कि कौन सी पार्टी किस वजह से हारी, सीट बाय सीट हमने, मतलब जो आप उत्तर प्रदेश की 75 डिस्ट्रिक्ट है, हमने उन 75, बहुत छोटी टीम में, हमारी टीम जो है वो बहुत, ऐसा नहीं कि टीवी चैनल्स की तरह बहुत 200-300 लोग काम कर रहे हो, नहीं, हम लोग वो 20, 25, 30, 40 जो भी लोग हमारे साथ हैं, उनमें हमने एक ट्राई किया कि हम जितना ज्यादा से ज्यादा आपको आपके डिस्ट्रिक्ट, आपके जिले, आपके गांव, आपके जो नेता हैं उनके बारे में बता सके, और फैक्ट्स के साथ। सिर्फ ये नहीं कि आपको इंफॉर्मेशन दे दिया और छोड़ दिया, नहीं, उसके पीछे की पूरी कहानी बताई कि किस सीट पे कैसे हुआ। वेस्टर्न यूपी में कोई जीता तो कैसे जीता, आपको ना जो राम मंदिर की बातें हो रही थी, तो वो जो सीट है अयोध्या की, वहां कौन सी पार्टी ने कैसे काम किया, क्या वो चीजें असर की इलेक्शन में, क्या जो गवर्नमेंट का कैंपेन, गवर्नमेंट की जो सब्सिडीज और तमाम जो अनाज और तमाम जो लाभार्थी जिनको कहा जाता था, उनके ऊपर हमने स्टोरी की कि कैसे वो चीजें डॉट्स को मिला के स्टोरी करते गए, कि कैसे लोगों को सरकार कैसे बनती है, लोग किस पर्सपेक्टिव से किस तरह वोट करते हैं। तो ये हमारी कोशिश थी, और अलग अलग शहर जो है वहां हमने पहुंचने की कोशिश की है। तो ये अभी तक फिलहाल जो है हम लोग ये कर रहे हैं। खास करके अब हम लोगों का जो स्टेप, अगर आप कहें कि कैसे हम लोग और आगे बढ़ना चाहते हैं, क्योंकि हम लोग वीडियो पे ज्यादा फोकस कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि आपको पता है कि लोग पढ़ते जरूर हैं, बहुत एक ऑडियंस है जो पढ़ने वाली है, लेकिन बहुत सारे लोग ऐसे हैं जो सिर्फ वीडियो कंज्यूम कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि आपको स्क्रॉल करना है, बहुत आसान है, आपके मोबाइल में सबके पास फेसबुक, यूट्यूब है, आप स्क्रॉल करते जाते हैं और आप देखते जाते हैं। हमारी कोशिश है कि हम आपकी भाषा में, आपको खास करके आसान भाषा में चीजों को समझा सके। ये अभी तक क्विंट हिंदी की कोशिश है, और इसी तरह हम आगे बढ़ रहे हैं। बाकी अगर आप लोगों के पास कोई सजेशन हो, आप बिल्कुल दीजिए, हम लोग उस पर कोशिश करेंगे कि उसको भी अपने साथ लेके चले और आगे बढ़े।
There's one question, which is, are there plans from Kyle? Are there plans to send the Quint app to smart television platforms? I think right now you can watch us on YouTube, our YouTube channel, but Tridip, any thoughts on this?
You know, we have gone through our data, and what we have seen across all the platforms, be it Facebook or YouTube, that almost 90% of our audience is consuming us on these handheld devices. So I think that's the audience we need to cater to, and we will be sticking to smaller devices for some time now.
I've got a question, if I may. May I?
Sure, go ahead, please.
Sutrita, you're saying something?
Sorry, could you come again, Sutrita, please?
We couldn't hear you.
I just got a question. If you have met someone in your face-to-face, in your drawing room, dining room, who is spouting what you know is fake information, wrong information, have you managed to change anyone's opinion?
Well, I do it very vociferously on all the WhatsApp groups that I am on. Anyone who sends me anything which is clearly not correct, I quickly check with our team, and they quickly send me a link, which is a fact check. They're always ahead of us on this, and we send it back. But I'm sure Vaishali wants to come in here.
I just want to quickly tell you about this project that we did called the GNI Fact Check, which was basically targeted vaccine misinformation around COVID. Yeah,
sponsored by GNI.
Sponsored by GNI. It was focused towards rural women, and most of the content was in Hindi and was dubbed in Assamese and in Bhojpuri. And those videos that we did, which we did in a certain flair and certain style for the rural audience, has had an incredible impact. We've had stories from villages where people have said that they did not want their pregnant women vaccinated, and these women have gone ahead and got the vaccine. We've got the elderly who've gone and gotten the vaccine after watching our videos. Mind you, all these videos, I think someone mentioned this, they were in Hindi, in Bhojpuri, in Assamese. So, you know, of course, with the support that you guys would provide us, we are very, very keen to take our content regional, and we are very keen to take our content across, because we see real impact on ground that's happening through all these mediums.
So two specific instances that Vaishali is referring to that come to mind that we got to know from our our partners on the ground who we were working with on vaccine misinformation. So there was this one instance where these women from the village went to the PHC, to the health center, to get vaccinated. And they were told that if they're on their period or if they are pregnant, they cannot get vaccinated. They came back, they got in touch with our ground partners. The ground partners got back in touch with us. We got in touch with a doctor and we created a video which completely dispelled all doubts about getting vaccinated when pregnant or on your period. And that video was sent back to the women. They took that video, took it back to the public health center, to those paramedics, and said, watch this video and now vaccinate us. Similarly, there was an instance where a woman actually had no way of reaching a public health center. And when she saw our content, which was, dispelling all the fake news regarding the vaccine, she actually an old woman got on a horse and traveled on a horse to the closest vaccine center and got herself vaccinated. So, I mean, and there are several such stories that we've got to know of. So, I mean, these stories, like Vaishali said, the fact that we were able to do it in Hindi, Bhojpuri, and Assamese, the fact that we were able to also collect what was the local fake news that was spreading regarding coronavirus or vaccine, that would come back to us. So we were able to drill deep down, and we were able to do that because we got the funding from Google News Initiative. So,
if I may interrupt, my question was not on that. My question was, have any of the editorial team managed to convince someone who's like you, someone who you meet in a drawing room, across a dining table, whatever? Have any of you managed to convince those people with strongly held wrong views?
Yes.
I think during the pandemic, the drawing rooms were WhatsApp groups. And that's where I have definitely been able to convert a few people.
Me too.
And I'm sure similarly.
we do respond to all the fake messages with links to our stories. And that's something that I'm guilty to as well. Like I've picked up fights on family groups because I want them to know the right thing. I'm quickly going to move to Tridib because I want to talk about, and I want him to talk about an important aspect of journalism that we are able to do here at the Quint, which is really uncovering India Invisible. The category, the Ramnath Goenka award that Tridib won last year was of this particular category. So if you can talk a bit about your story from the detention centers of Assam, and also just overall how we go about doing this here at the Quint.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shelly. So basically in 2019, when the final list of NRC was coming out, and we have been as a media platform, one of the most, we're at the forefront of this coverage of the NRC in Assam. So when I traveled to Assam in 2019, there was this talk about this huge detention camp that was under construction, but till then nobody had seen it, but there were talks and murmurs about it. So through my sources and people I knew, we took a call and we traveled to Gwalpara to find out if actually something was being built. And to our surprise or shock, whatever you may say, we saw this huge construction that was going on to house almost 3,000 people who would be declared foreigners by the foreigners tribunal, and eventually there would be there would be an attempt to deport them to Bangladesh. Whether Bangladesh accepts them or not, it's a different question altogether. But that was the story about this huge detention camp that was being built, and for the very first time on video we were able to capture this. And when the story came out, it actually it made a lot of connection with our audience, and for the very first time they knew what exactly this whole NRC and the whole saga could lead to, and what exactly was happening in Assam. So this is the story that was awarded the Ramnath Goenka Award in 2019 in the Uncovering India Invisible category. Okay, so this is about just one story. When I talk about Uncovering India Invisible, there is one particular region of India, which is the northeast of India, which is actually invisible for mainstream media. And we at the Quint, with the support from our editors for the last 7 years, we've been consistently covering Northeast through the help of our stringers on the ground. Be it the NRC. NRC is a story we have been following for the last 4 years. Even now, every 2 months there will be a story on CA or NRC from Assam. We will be telling stories of people from all communities, be it Muslims, be it Hindus, who are at the receiving end of this NRC, and we bring out their stories, because these are the people who hardly find space in mainstream media. Because if you are in New Delhi, if you're in Kashmir, if you're in Gujarat, there's a lot of national and international coverage. But people from Northeast, they don't get any coverage. So this is one area which one to tell stories from. Then be it the Oting massacre, or the Chin refugees in Mizoram, or a 90-year-old woman fighting against uranium mining in a small village in Meghalaya. You go to any media organization in India and try to find these stories, you will hardly find a story on these things. And Uncovering India Invisible will also say that we have tried to cover stories which are invisible and untold outside India also. When there was a violence against the Hindu community in Bangladesh during the Durga Puja celebrations this year, you will see a lot of nationalist media in India. They will talk about nationalism in a particular community, but we were the ones who we made sure through our contacts and resources in Bangladesh, we brought out the stories of these people, the minority in Bangladesh who were at the receiving end of this violence. We profiled families who had lost their loved ones. So this is exactly what we are trying to do, to tell these untold stories, these invisible stories. And when we see members like you supporting us and encouraging us, it gives us hope that, yeah, if we still go out, if we spend money, if we spend, if we give out budgets for these kind of stories, there will be people who will be out there to support us, to help us. So that's about it. I just request you to keep the faith in us and keep supporting us, and we will try to do our work that we have been doing all along. I would pass it on to Rohit.
So so we are 7 years old, and we are, what would I say, 7 years young, I think it's a great day to, rededicate ourselves to the truth. The truth is what drives us. The truth is what drives you, our readers, and therefore you come to the Quint, and that attention that you pay to us as our audience, that is something that we respect a lot. That drives us. So thanks a lot for having been with us on this journey. Thanks a lot for all your suggestions. I've made notes. Tushar, Harsha, Prabal, Sutripta, you're there every time. Kyle, thanks for joining us. And like Raghav says, in the years ahead, we will consolidate. We will stay on this path. We will continue to walk this thin line, and we have a young team, very, very, very enthusiastic. Lots of discussion, lots of innovation, lots of go get. So we want to keep all that alive. We want to keep alive this interaction with all of you, with our members. Keep it as vital as possible. Tushar, you better please come again. We'd love to have you here. You have any closing thoughts, or you want to sing happy birthday?
Happy birthday, Quint.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'd love to come back.
Thank you everyone.
Thank you for joining us. We're going to go cut a cake now.
I'm going to take a picture. Just hold on. I'm feeling FOMO sitting far away, so.